Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about the Azorius Convoke deck in Standard. We're going to talk about card choices, how to play the deck, and the overall strategy of the deck. Let's do it. So this is the Standard Azorius Convoke deck. And really, I don't know why we call it Convoke. Really, it's an Azorius Aggro deck. And what this deck is effectively doing is putting a bunch of powerful but cheap creatures on the battlefield all at once so that you have a massive Regal Bunnicorn, you tap things down, get things out of the way, draw cards off of Enduring Curiosity, have a Steel Seraph power them up, and just overwhelm your opponent. It's a super fun deck to play if you like combat, because that's what this deck is attempting to do. Now, as far as the lands go, there's nothing really special happening. We have some man lands, but really it's just blue-white lands. There's no like hidden synergies. Besides, I guess we can, when you make the thing with Reckless Anchorage, you can then tap it with Warden of the Inner Sky, or if you man up Soulstone Sanctuary, you can do a really similar thing. And really, this deck is divided up into creatures and non-creatures. And I'm just going to talk about the creatures first. First off, we have Novice Inspector. It's a 2/1 for 1 when it enters Investigate, which means create a clue token, which is an artifact. This card's decent because, one, it's just a 1-mana body, and we can cash in the clue for an extra card. But there's also extra synergy with Warden of the Inner Sky, which is another 1-mana 1/2. But it says when it has 3 or more counters on it, it has Flying and Vigilance, which is very powerful, and we can tap 3 untapped artifacts and or creatures to put a +1/+1 counter on it and scry 1. Now, Novice Inspector is a creature and an artifact, so it creates 2 permanents for that Warden of the Inner Sky to get very big and very powerful and be able to cash in on a frankly small body. Now, Spyglass Siren is also doing a really similar thing. It's a 1-mana 1/1 with flying. When it enters, create a map token. Now, a map is an artifact, which means it's creating 2 permanents for that Warden of the Inner Sky as well. But also it is flying, so it has a little bit more evasion. And you can cash in on these artifacts once they don't become relevant for Warden of the Inner Sky. We're playing 4 Flood Pitch Drowner. It is a 2-mana 2/1 with Flash and Vigilance. When it enters, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it so it doesn't untap for 1 turn. And we can pay 2 mana and tap it to shuffle Flood Pitch Drowner and target creature with a stun counter on it into the owner's library. So for 4 mana, it can get rid of a permanent forever, which is really sweet. But really, it's just getting things out of the way so that we can jam with our massive creatures or flood the board with our creatures. Speaking of massive creatures, a lot of what we're trying to do is capitalize on Regal Bunnicorn. Regal Bunnicorn is a 2-mana star, whereas power and toughness are equal to the number of non-land permanents you control. The cool part about this card is that enchantments, the artifacts we get from Spyglass Siren and Novice Inspector, all count as these non-land permanents. And so, you know, we play Spyglass Siren or Novice Inspector on turn 1, Regal Bunnicorn on turn 2, and it's already a 3/3, and really only gets bigger from there, especially if we kind of give it lifelink with Sheltered by Ghosts and stuff like that. And so getting things out of the way, often we can just like Alpha Strike with a giant Regal Bunnicorn, which we absolutely love. As far as continue to talk about the creatures, playing 3 Enduring Curiosity. It's a 4-mana 4/3 with Flash. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And when it dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control, and it's an enchantment, and it can still has that curiosity effect. Cool part about this card is that a lot of our cards are evasive or absolutely massive, or get blockers out of the way, or make other things evasive, or things like that. And so being able to draw a bunch of cards in a deck where our plan is just to flood the board with creatures is super powerful. Steel Seraph is a 6-mana 5/4 with flying. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains your choice of Flying, Vigilance, or Lifelink until end of turn. However, has prototype for 1 white, and it's a 3/3 when you prototype it. So this can give evasion, this can give lifelink so that we don't die to the red decks. This can give vigilance so that we can block, which is probably the least common thing. Giving evasion to that Regal Bunnicorn or really any creature when Enduring Curiosity's out. It's very powerful. Also has flying in and of itself, and we can cash in and make it a 5/4 if we have 6 mana instead of 3, which is super strong as well. And then we're playing 4 Mockingbird. Mockingbird is blue and X, has flying. You may have Mockingbird enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, mana value less than or equal to the amount of mana spent to cast Mockingbird, except as a bird in addition to its other types, and as flying. So we have that evasiveness, which is really important for, like, you know, flooding the board and just dealing a bunch of damage, and Enduring Curiosity. But also we can copy any card we already have on the battlefield. We can draw 2 cards for every creature that lands, you know, if we have if we want to copy an Enduring Curiosity, or maybe more likely copying a Warden of the Inner Sky or a Regal Bunnicorn or anything like that, or getting things out of the way by copying a Flood Pitch Drowner, and now has Vigilance and flying. It's just a very, very powerful card. Now, as far as non-creature spells go, we're playing 4 Sheltered by Ghosts. It's a 2-mana aura where you enchant a creature you control. When it enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Shelter by Ghost leave the battlefield. And then the enchanted creature gets +1/+0, has lifelink and ward 2. Putting lifelink on a giant thing like a Regal Bunnicorn is very strong. Again, this is a way to get things out of the way. Playing 4 of these main deck means that you're like 90% against the aggressive decks, which is really cool. And just all around a very powerful card. And then the rest are some flex slots, but cards that I really like. Unidentified Hover Shift is a 3-mana vehicle that is 2/2. When it enters, exile up to 1 target creature with toughness 5 or less. And when it leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner manifests dread. So it doesn't actually give something back. It just has the manifest dread, which is we're totally okay with. The cool part about this is 2/2 with crew 1. So it removes something and creates an evasive way to cash in something like Novice Inspector. And they're paying a single Raise the Pass in the main deck. It's a 4-mana sorcery. Return all creature cards with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is very good against the decks that like wipe the board, especially with cards like Split Up or have a lot of removal, and that's how they want to deal with our many creatures. So really, we're just like, we have a couple combos within the deck, but the essence of the deck is we're putting a bunch of creatures on the battlefield and trying to overwhelm our opponent. As far as the sideboard goes, we're playing Elspeth's Smite to deal with these aggressive decks. A 1-mana instant deals 3 damage to target attacking or blocking creature, and it would die that turn, exile it instead. Also happens to be very good against the enduring cards as well. We're playing 3 Destroy Evil, destroying any problematic enchantments, like I'm thinking like Temporary Lockdown or something like that, but also getting rid of creatures with toughness 4 or greater. Rest in Peace as our graveyard hate. Split Up we can play in our deck because we can really make it a one-sided board wipe for any like Convoke-y mirror matches or aggressive decks where we can just like jam with everything, and then if they have things untapped, we just go untapped, or if they've been attacking, we untap and then we just say tapped, and it's a one-sided board wipe, which is very powerful. We're playing 2 more Raise the Pass. It's a 4-mana sorcery. Again, return all creature cards with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Very good against decks with a lot of board wipes, against other Split Up decks. Very good against the black decks that are just removing your creatures as fast as possible. Protecting Negotiators, we're playing as a 2-mana instant that says, if the spell is cooked, create a 1/1 white soldier token. And it says counter target spell unless controller pays 1 for each creature you control. Very good in this deck because we normally have a bunch of creatures anyway, and we want to be playing the Protect Negotiators against board wipes. Things like Sunfall or Day of Judgment or Split Up or whatever. Because very often we kind of have to overcommit to the board because that's sort of what we're doing as a deck, and we really don't want to be punished by that. And then we're playing 2 Tishana's Tidebinder. It's a 3-mana 3/2 with flash. When it enters, counter up to 1 target activated or triggered ability. If an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities for as long as Tishana's Tidebinder remains on the battlefield. This happens to be really good against Temporary Lockdown because it just kind of like stops that stuff. There's a lot of really fun and interesting corner cases that this deck has. Very good against like Enduring Curiosity, Planeswalkers, and just making things textless. But this is the Azorius Convoke deck in Standard. It is so fun. If you like this video overview of Azorius Convoke, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.